Breaking news on RT. A deadly fire and explosions at an oil depot near Ukraine's capital. A nearby gas facility is said to be at risk. Also this hour. As Paris tries to forcibly clear out illegal migrant camps, police resort to drastic measures to quell activists unhappy about how France deals with incomers. And straight from straight-A student to extremist sympathiser, a Russian teenager's father tells RT of his devastation and disbelief over his daughter's radicalisation by Islamic State. Hello there, you're watching RT International. It's midday, broadcasting live from Moscow. You're with me, Katie Pilbeam. We start with breaking news of a massive fire in Ukraine at an oil depot on the outskirts of Kiev. It began around 20 hours ago, but it's not yet under control, and nearby fuel pipelines are said to be in danger. The fire is now thought to have spread to a nearby forest as well. Well, we've got video from the area which was filmed within the past couple of hours. Well, let's join our correspondent in Ukraine now, Ilya Petrenko. Ilya, hi there. So what else can you tell us? Bring us up to date.
Hello again, Katie. Well, there is no more oil depot. Those emotional words, it was actually screaming from one of the horrific videos that is circulating online, describes best the situation. The fire destroyed all 17 oil tanks at one of the oil refineries. There were several blasts there that killed some of the firefighters. How many, we still don't know yet. But right now we understand that the fears that the fire can also engulf a second oil refinery in the vicinity were not groundless. So now we've got two oil depots on fire. The scenes are absolutely chaotic because the firefighters have themselves became victims of this catastrophe. We've seen videos of them running from the scene, ambulances and fire station vehicles also on fire. The locals were told to cover their faces with wet cloths, but they're not receiving much information from the authorities, so the locals really don't know what to do. Eyewitnesses and journalists describe the scenes as apocalyptic, and here's what one of the Ukrainian journalists shared with the public.
There's a black cloud above us. There's been black rain here, black water falling from the sky. Black smoke can be seen from several kilometers away.
It really is hard to imagine anything worse, isn't it?
It's true, but the worst case scenario is actually that the fire would reach a nearby natural gas storage site. And in this case, we're in for a huge explosion. We have to remember that this area is just dozens of kilometers away from Ukraine's capital, Kiev, the biggest city, which is home to about 3 million people. So in the case of that big bang, the consequences are just unpredictable. If that doesn't happen, still, there is this huge mass of smoke and fumes that is just floating above Ukraine's capital right now. And the main question is in which direction the wind is blowing right now, because if this huge intoxicated mass descends onto Kiev, we are in for a huge ecological catastrophe. But again, the main cause of concern at this point is that the fire is not under control, and we still have to wait and see where this whole thing is going to go.
Indeed we will. Ilya, we will be joining you a little later on. We're going to talk about those ecological concerns just now, actually, because oil fires on this scale raise ecological concerns, of course. Well, let's discuss that now with weather and climate forecaster Piers Corbyn just now.
How do you do?
Hello, good to have you on the programme, sir. Yeah. Now, what we want to know is, what sort of environmental impact might this result in? I mean, how could it affect the people who live there?
Well, the black rain is extremely unhealthy, and it's going to damage plants. And of course, the smoke in the atmosphere is going to make it darker for some days. An interesting question is that if that gas depot does explode, then the temperatures could be high enough for it to go, for the smoke to go very high. And if it goes high enough into the stratosphere, like 35,000 feet, then it will spread, around the world.
Is that feasible then, to spread around the world? Is that feasible?
Only if you get a big fire that carries on, and it's got to be very hot. But the worrying thing about if that gas depot explodes, then you will have a very high temperature event.
Well, it's thought that...
But right now, it's not hot enough for that.
Right, okay, I understand you. Now, it's thought that a nearby gas facility is at risk, and a local forest is thought to have caught fire as well. How concerned are you about the safety of such facilities or the emergency services response? Can you give us your expertise?
Well, I don't know if they've got enough capacity to control these things. I mean, the main thing, obviously, is to stop getting it to this gas depot, because if that explodes, it's going to be a very high temperature event. The forest fire, unless it's extremely large, wouldn't be a high enough temperature event, but it would still be catastrophic for all the wildlife in there, as well as the smoke and fume pollution in the whole area, which would be, cause people lung problems.
And Piers, what can be done now to try and resolve this situation as quickly as possible so that nobody else is hurt, nobody else is injured, and the environment doesn't impact too much, so that it does spread across the world, as you say, which is a possibility? What needs to be done?
Well, you've got to do everything possible to stop the fire spreading to that gas depot, and to do that, you just need more firefighters and from the air and the land, when you can drop things on these fires.
And
if you can bring in from outside into Ukraine, I don't know, but there must be possibilities. I mean,
I was going to ask you that. Do you think that outsiders looking in on this situation, looking at these pictures, looking at these people running around, the thick grey smoke, do you think that Kiev possibly does need some outside help to help contain it?
Well, I should think so, yes. I mean, they have to be sure the outside help can get there quickly, otherwise there's not hardly any point. But, in a matter of hours, I would have thought there could be help from nearby countries, and perhaps they should be requesting that.
Mm-hmm. And have you seen anything similar? How can we compare what's happening now in Ukraine to anything else? Is it similar to any other disaster?
Well, the nearest similar thing I would say was when the war in the first Gulf War, when Saddam Hussein set alight to the oil wells, and then, although those were high temperature, they were not concentrated enough or hot enough to reach the stratosphere. So the fears put around then that this was going to cause darkening of the world atmosphere and so on were actually nonsense. Mm-hmm. You need to have something extremely hot. Now, this isn't hot enough or large enough yet, but as I just said, the danger, if it gets to that depot and there's a big explosion, it becomes a possibility.
Now, there's suspicions and accusations flying around, as usual, with a scene like this, whatever country it's in. People are always pointing fingers and asking questions, but we're not entirely sure how it was caused just yet. Do you have any idea? Would you be able to ascertain a guess on that, just from looking at the pictures?
Yeah, you need experts to look at the source of the fire and see what happened. I mean, if there was some material which can indicate a planted explosion, then yes. But some of these things, or a lot of these things, do happen perfectly naturally. They have been, by naturally, I mean by just accidentally, as has happened in Britain in the last 5 years. There was a number of oil depot explosions, but they were much smaller than this, but nevertheless pretty horrific.
Yeah, absolutely horrific at the moment. Well, we hope that it's contained as soon as possible.
Well, that's the key thing.
Yeah, Piers Corbyn, thank you so much indeed. Weather and climate forecaster. Great to have you on the programme.
Thank you.